What if I told you there are a group of people out there plotting the downfall of America? And they're not even hiding their contempt for real Americans anymore. No, it's all out there in the open, plain to see. That's how most conspiracy theories go, probably without the ominous music or the high production value stock footage. And the thing about it is it works. Millions of Americans believe that President JFK wasn't assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. So if conspiracy theories are so widespread and they get people killed, we need to talk about them and how to help people caught up in them. If we're going to continue talking about this, we need to make sure we're all on the same page. Conspiracy theories are interpretations of events that fall outside the general public's accounting of them. More importantly, outside of what scientists and historians believe happened. Another important characteristic is that the supposed conspiracy is being carried out with a near perfect level of competence and secrecy. There are several ways to further categorize conspiracy theories. Typically, this relies on the underlying beliefs. I'm going to talk about the categorizations put forth by writer Jesse Walker, because it helps to give an idea of what some conspiracy theories are about without having me to list out everyone ever said. So Walker proposes, the enemy outside, which refers to theories based on figures alleged to be scheming against a community from without. The enemy within, which finds the conspirators lurking inside the nation indistinguishable from ordinary citizens. The enemy above, which involves powerful people manipulating events for their own gain. The enemy below, which features the lower classes working to overturn the social order, and the benevolent conspiracies, which are angelic forces that work behind the scenes to improve the world and help people. From these categories, we probably have covered almost every conspiracy theory you've ever heard, but I'd like to propose a new one, which is the opposite of benevolent conspiracies. Ones that involve demons or evil forces. Malevolent conspiracies are more prevalent in New Age spiritualism, so they tend to get less exposure. Okay, so we have a definition and a few supercategories, but let's talk about how conspiracy theories are so infectious. Conspiracy theories exploit cognitive biases, usually proportionality bias, attribution bias, and confirmation bias. If you're interested in them, I encourage you to look into them more, but for this video, I'll give a quick definition. Proportionality bias. Big events have big causes. Attribution bias. Why you think something happened may not be why it happened. Confirmation bias. The reason something happened has to be what I think happened. Or to put it another way, it's circular reasoning. This often creates a resistance to falsification. Just saying all of those biases out loud, you've probably seen the bones of almost every crazy conspiracy theory. But there's more worth talking about, because conspiracy theorists often take advantage of false balance in the media. They claim to be presenting a legitimate alternative viewpoint that deserves equal time to argue its case, like the statement, "That's fake news." This also gets presented a lot in climate change denialism. Joseph Pierre noted that mistrust in authoritative institutions is the core component underlying many conspiracy theories. These institutions can be government, media, or schools. I've talked about this in a short before, but there is a marked increase in conspiracy theories since the advent of the penny journal. This becomes a through line into blogs and YouTube videos and Facebook posts. There's become a financial interest in conspiracy theories and their creation, which has fueled their proliferation. Spectacle sells, and it gets you clout. That's why YouTubers have been caught making up conspiracy theories and tried to feed them. But saying all of this, it becomes clear that conspiracy theories don't flourish in perfect societies. They prey on all of the negative emotions in society. So now that we have an idea of what conspiracy theories are and how they spread, it's important to distinguish them from conspiracies. Conspiracies are what conspiracy theories wish they were. Conspiracies are verifiably true and typically involve government action. Great examples of this include MKUltra, Operation Paperclip, the Iran-Contras, and the Tuskegee experiment. Now, I'm sure the difference feels like I'm separating the winners from those still in the running, and you're kind of right. A lot of conspiracy theories prey on believable ambiguities and don't stray too far from reality. MK Ultra victims came forward and talked about their experience, and before the 90s, when much of the truth about MK Ultra was revealed, they were considered conspiracy theorists. And if you talk about MK Ultra, you still sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's all there in government documents. And that's why it's important to once again highlight a characteristic of conspiracy theories: their circular reasoning. Both evidence against the conspiracy and an absence of evidence for it are reinterpreted as evidence of its truth. This resistance to falsification should be a red flag and help you separate potentially true conspiracies from conspiracy theories. So what do? I'm not going to drag it out. We as a society, or at least on the individual level, need to change the way we engage with conspiracy theories. Helping people deprogram is deeply important, and we need to teach each other how to do that. I'll get more into that later in the video, but also we should consider content creators and their responsibility as well. It's not okay to just say crazy stuff and not engage with how that's crazy and hope that our audience just gets that. We have to talk about the truth. Conspiracy theories aren't just entertainment. They aren't just asking questions. They are actively harmful. Conspiracy theories are most likely to inspire violence when they call for urgent action, appeals to prejudices, or demonize and scapegoat enemies. In terms of harmful conspiracies, Q is king in America. No conspiracy has done quite the same damage in modern America than Q. Part of that is because it's a conspiracy theory that has become a political stance, and the most poignant example since Germany before World War II. For those unfamiliar with Q, or the batshit crazy things swirling around it, I'll read you the first paragraph on the Wikipedia page. QAnon is an American far-right political conspiracy theory and movement centered on false claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known by the name Q, that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic pedophiles operate a global child sex trafficking ring that conspired against the former U.S. President Donald Trump during his term in office. QAnon has been described as a cult. What the fuck? This video couldn't possibly go over the full history of Q without getting completely derailed, so I'll give you a short and sweet history and a link to a video on the subject. Q was born in 4chan forums on October 28, 2017. The user detailed an event they called the Storm, which would be the night where all of Donald Trump's enemies would be taken care of, which sounds eerily similar to the Night of Broken Glass in pre-war Germany. It was supposedly pushed on Twitter by Russian bots, and later moved to 8chan, which is just 4chan, but worse. It was in this early period where Q had a lot of grifters pushing the conspiracy theory, and then the pandemic. It was in this time that Q-related content tripled on Facebook and incorporated a lot of COVID conspiracies. And then it all boiled over on January 6th, 2021. Now to the distressing part. QAnon has hurt people. Not only the 5 people who died that day on January 6th, not only the people who bought into related COVID conspiracies and died, not only the people killed and injured in the El Paso shooting, not only the Pizzagate shooting that traumatized employees and patrons, various murders have been carried out by unstable people citing Q as the reason. The most important and covertly insidious part of QAnon is the fact that it's not a conspiracy theory, but a bundle of them, creating what some people call a pipeline. Something that has been trending lately is a conspiracy theory chart that originated from TikTok and was created by Abby Richards. As you can see, it flows from most connected to reality to the least connected to reality. This conspiracy theory chart is a really helpful way of thinking about the dangers of conspiracy theories, but it's not the only chart. While the Richards conspiracy theory chart is making its rounds in the sane part of the internet, in early 2020, a map titled The Great Awakening was making the rounds in the Q sphere. This map, concerningly enough, contains a lot of spiritualism hippie type stuff. One idea as to why this might be the case is that spiritual people tend to score high on schizopathy, which is a theoretical psychological concept that exists on a continuum and has a correlation with perceiving events to have hidden meanings, or to say that simply, they're given to conspiratorial beliefs. This may explain why there's such an overlap between Q and spiritualism, but it may also be an intentional strategy to lure people in who otherwise may not have engaged with Q. The map shows spiritual beliefs that a hippie might already believe in, and they're mingled with the milder conspiracy theories are deeply harmful conspiracies. A lot of them relying on anti-Semitism and racist conspiracies that are ages old. I want to single out the COVID conspiracies on the map because they come in a long line of anti-science thinking already existent in the hippie community. The modern understanding of anti-vax and anti-mask is that it's a problem of the right. And while that's true, it's not the whole truth. Pre-pandemic, there were enclaves of anti-vax thought in California, which has seen a resurgence of childhood diseases we have vaccines for, like measles. Some of the biggest pushers of the anti-vax bullshit are people who believe in crystal healing and essential oil healing. I've been talking around it, but the hippie to alt-right pipeline is important because of its relationship to history. Because of the mustache man. You know the one. As they say, history rhymes. In pre-war Germany in the 20s and 30s, there was a rise in occultism and spiritual practices. Stuff like astrology and seances spread through the parlors of Germany. And from these places, the mustache man was endorsed, first by two of the largest astrological societies. In return, Germany put a lot of resources into backing the spiritual beliefs, funding research into dowsing, performing research on ley lines, and most distressingly, backing, quote, alternative medicine. So how does the alt-right pipeline for hippies work today? Modern fans of the mustache man will make videos on TikTok and YouTube tailored to hippies. The first channel will either be quiet about their hate or subtle about it. Then they will recommend videos by other creators who are mask-off about their fanaticism for the mustache man. This pipeline exists to allure unsuspecting people towards the mustache man, but also to wear down hippies' barriers to hate. Because if you start calling them the global elite, it's not going to be long before you can say who you think that global elite is. Anti-Semitism. Any discussion of conspiracy theories and their harm would be wholly incomplete without talking about it. Anti-Semitism is defined by the IHRA as the certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward community institutions and religious facilities. Historically speaking, most conspiracy theories were blatantly anti-Semitic. A lot of these anti-Semitic conspiracies have stuck around and play a large part in modern conspiracy theories. Some of these conspiracies are world domination, controlling the media, controlling banking, blood libel, well poisoning, or causing plagues. If any of those sound familiar, that's because QAnon is almost explicitly built on those conspiracy theories. And the problem is that many people don't set out to be anti-Semitic or buy into the Q bullshit. But that doesn't mean they can't find themselves in the pipeline. As we've already discussed, there's a lot of ways to get into the pipeline, but this is a good place to tell you that anti-Semitism is in plain sight. As the Southern Poverty Law Center notes, the History Channel on Ancient Aliens pushes a lot of these older conspiracy theories, and a lot of far-right extremists who are openly anti-Semitic often talk about these ancient aliens conspiracy theories, and this can be a new path down the pipeline. Distressingly enough, it's also on Twitter. The Anti-Defamation League performed a study of anti-Semitism on Twitter between 2017 and 2018. They were able to determine that 4.2 million anti-Semitic tweets were posted and reposted on Twitter in the one-year period in English alone. This is a deeply concerning amount of hateful tweets left to float in the aether of the internet and infect people with hate. Deborah Lipstadt's quote is a reminder that hate is like a fire, and it has to be put out before it spreads. It's time to take everything we've talked about and put together an attack strategy. Conspiracy theories don't just exist on fringe internet sites. Just searching YouTube, you can find videos with millions of views from creators like WatchMojo, Shane Dawson, Good Mythical Morning, BuzzFeed, and many more smaller creators. Conspiracy theories are seemingly an evergreen source of entertainment, and to be honest, I've watched videos like that when I'm bored before too. I've clicked on the clickbait titles, I get it, I do, but the problem with many of these videos is they simply present the arguments of the conspiracy theories. They rarely critically engage with the underlying assumptions and beliefs in the conspiracy theories. And by simply restating what someone else has said without even doing so much as Googling some of the claims, you become complicit in the lies, especially if those lies marginalize people or make them unsafe. Then there are the grifters. Unlike the people who only talk about conspiracy theories for entertainment, grifters are truly insidious. In research for this video, I found so many people peddling conspiracy theories as a means of making money and accumulating political power. People like Alex Jones, Cyber Ninja, which is a group that ran the Arizona ballot recount, and Goop, which peddles New Age spiritualism conspiracy theories, some of them closely tied to old mustache man theories. Taken together, January 6th was no surprise. It was a snowball that's been rolling for a really long time and has roots that go back as far as the medieval ages. Anything that goes back that far has to be a cultural problem. So how do you combat conspiracy theories? The first thing you need to do is start from a place of respect. Oftentimes, conspiracy theories are born out of fear and anger, and while it may be entirely misplaced or non-existent, belittling those emotions will cause people to shut down. The next step is dependent on how long you have. If you have a little bit of time, but don't want to let the conspiracy theory fly, try the truth sandwich. If you have a lot of time, the Socrates method is often more effective. Professor George Lakoff's truth sandwich works by taking a fallacy or inconsistency and debunking it between a true factual statement that you repeat twice. Engaged for Youth gives the following example. Let's say someone you know believes that they don't need the COVID-19 vaccine because the virus has a 99.9% survival rate, which it doesn't. In that case, you should say, the survival rate is high, but the virus is still incredibly dangerous. Even 1% in a country of 328 million people like ours would cost over 3 million people their lives. That's why even though the survival rate is high, the virus is still incredibly dangerous. The Socrates method is simple to understand, but can take a while. Put simply, you pretend to be a, quote, seeker and poke holes in the conspiracy theories as you go. With the method, the goal is for both of you to accidentally stumble on the truth together. Lastly, there's a difference between helping someone get out of conspiratorial thinking and an apparatus like InfoWars or even YouTubers. If you find a conspiracist that is spreading hate, report them to YouTube, to the police, to school authorities, or to the ADL that tracks extremists and hate groups.